Hey, it's Anthony Whitaker here, and welcome to today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast. And whether you're a returning listener or perhaps it's your first time, either way, it's great to have you here. Every week, I either feature a guest on the show or I'll dive into a new idea or revisit the foundations of what it takes to succeed in the industry today. Now, my guest today is Hayley Mears. Hayley is a former hairdresser who started a branding and marketing agency called Six Underground Media. Hayley brings a wealth of insights into many areas of the hairdressing industry, but she does have a particular passion for social media and branding. And as a result, she is now one of the guest presenters on my marketing course. In today's podcast, we will discuss Instagram trends for 2026. We'll talk about using AI in everything that we do and why many salon owners are now using Canva to help create branding resources of their own, and lots more. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Hayley Mears.
Anthony, thank you for having me. I think before we say anything, I need to give a shout out to you and your patience because you have been so incredibly patient with me in getting me on this podcast and working with me over the last few months. I think everyone needs to appreciate how chilled and calm you and your gorgeous wife Melinda are to work with. So thanks for having me and thanks for your patience.
Oh, I'm renowned for my patience. Just ask my wife and children. Well, that's very sweet of you to say so. And no, it's really great to have this opportunity to have you on the podcast. And I should sort of preface what you've just said with saying that with our marketing course that was recently just a bit of a soft launch, that you are our sort of resident Instagram and Canva expert, and you've got a couple of lessons within the course. So it's great to have this opportunity to talk to you on the podcast and to introduce you to our audience so that they also get to know you. So on that note, I really wanted to talk a lot about Instagram, and I suppose, because this will go out in December, it's very appropriate that we start talking about 2026. So, without getting down into the weeds too much, as a generalization, what would you say some of the big things are about Instagram that salons need to be focusing on in 2026? Because, like everything, you look at Instagram today and compare it to Instagram 5 years ago, it's a very different beast, and it is constantly evolving and changing. So what should salons be doing and focusing on with Instagram next year?
Well, I think the first thing that they need to focus on is kind of mentally prepare themselves for change, because I think the platform is going to change in a really, really big way next year. A lot of this is based on research, but most of it is based off the patterns that I have observed Instagram roll out over a period of time. And when the market is busy and flooded with lots of innovation, especially in the tech space, and we see the uptake of Instagram and TikTok and AI all happening at the same time, I'm very aware that that means they're competing with each other. I look at how TikTok works and how Instagram works and the way they shadow each other, because one platform will release something and within lightning speed the other has their offering of it. So I think we need to be prepared for change. I think it will feel more complicated in 2026, but it actually won't be. I think we can be looking to see a lot of what we would normally have as like bots and coding actually built into the applications that we use. Normally, if you were to use an auto response bot or a download bot, and I think just to give a bit of context as to what I mean by that, there's a really great tool called ManyChat, and it will allow you to use a keyword that gets dropped into the comments, and that keyword triggers an automated response, and it will go directly to your direct messages. So, for example, Anthony, you might have a post on Instagram and you'll be like, do you want to know more about marketing? And these are all of the things we're going to talk about. write marketing in the comments and I'm going to send you something that's really going to elevate your rollout of social media in your marketing. So I've typed in marketing, and then in my DMs, I've got something from you within a nanosecond that says, thanks so much, just going to grab your email. And from there, I'm going to put my email in. You're going to email me a PDF, but you've already got my email address. So now we have another database that we're going to connect on.
Mm.
That has typically happened offsite with various tech plugins, widgets, APIs, that sort of thing. And I think all of that is about to become inbuilt into the app, which is very exciting. And it's not going to be as scary as people think. I think we have an amazing opportunity in 2026 to elevate the way we speak to our audience better than before.
Okay. Wow, there's lots of good information now. I scribbled a few notes down. Sometimes, I mean, I know we have listeners every week now in over 100 countries, which is fantastic. And I know that there'll be some people that are really up with all the terminology and are all over Instagram, and they are constantly evolving with it and spend an inordinate amount of time on it. And so, but then there'll be other people who you've just used terms like, well, AI, everyone knows. Well, I shouldn't even say everyone knows AI. I was talking to someone recently, they'd never heard of it. Do you know what I mean? So admittedly, she was of the older generation, but yeah, you have to, accept that that's also a reality. So terms like AI and API and bot and ManyChat, I think most people know what ManyChat is. All that sort of terminology, although you're really comfortable with it and you're constantly on the edge and evolving with it, I think that there are a lot of salon owners, not I think, I know there are, who sort of say, oh my God, this is getting all so complicated, I need to hand it over to somebody else. Now, I know that you have or had, I'm not actually sure what the context is there, so you can tell me, an agency that has constantly evolved. You know, your
Yes.
agency today, Six Underground Media, is a very different agency to what Six Underground Media was, 5 or I'm not sure how many years ago you started it. But I suppose in line with what I'm rambling on about here is that if there's a tendency for people to go, I'm just going to outsource it to somebody else because I don't understand all this and haven't got time to learn it, what is your advice? Do you say to them as a generalization, okay, because some people need an agency to do it because they've got a bigger business or whatever. But as a generalization, do you say to them, no, do not be intimidated. Do not be overwhelmed. You've got this. There's a few tools that you can master. Or do you say to them, do you know what? I think you're best to outsource it to somebody else. What's your sort of take on that?
Well, the audience is quite split in that area. So I would say someone who is a heritage client of mine, so they're not from the tech world, just like I wasn't originally from the tech world. I would say outsource completely, but have a great relationship with the person that you outsource to so that you can have conversations, have things that are face to face, real time, and that person is completely immersed in the culture of your business. On the other hand, if I have a digital native, a younger person that is a solo operator or a solopreneur, I think there's what they typically need is someone to hold their hand just for a little while to get them through a couple of speed bumps and
Mm,
walk them through all of the lessons, the things that they did wrong and why, and then they're ready to go because the confidence building is key.
mm.
And it's a process of trial and error, and that's how I've learned. Like, I have not been taught by anyone, I've just had to work it out, and I've had to make the mistakes, and that's how I got to where I've gotten to. So I think it's different depending on the level of capability, but sometimes capability and confidence are two different things.
Mm.
So I kind of work with the person and see what it is I think that they need and then try to offer something that aligns with that.
Right. So you do still work as an agency doing social for people,
We
but you
do.
also teach people to do their own social. Is that correct?
Yes,
Right.
that's
Okay.
correct. But
Right.
that's only been, I mean, we've always been an agency that is a done for you social media creative brand and
Mm,
always specifically in hair and beauty.
mhm,
However, within this year, the shift has been pretty big and fast where I've noticed that salons want content in real time in their business. Now, I can't be in, 5 to 6 different salons a week getting that content and then coming back and editing it and doing all of those bits and pieces. So there's definitely a need for salons to do the in-salon content themselves. There is still a need for them to outsource the more layered marketing that comes with that. So the marketing that has multiple steps, and some of it will be, in salon marketing that also converts to digital. So I hope that answers your question. I think this year we've kind of gone on a execution and mentor collaboration.
Yeah.
And potentially, I could very much see in 18 months' time, we could just be mentoring and not actually delivering content anymore, because people have tools and resources to do just as good a job as what we do.
Yeah.
And it's happening really, really fast.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I want to circle back to something you said, which is very relevant to my business, and I want to get your take on how relevant it is to salons, and that
Okay.
is about getting email addresses. You talked about with ManyChat that you drop marketing into if you say to someone to drop marketing into the comment section, and I will send you the whatever it is, the PDF. Now, for my business, that is a very important thing for me to do, to build up a email database. What I want to ask you about is, from a salon's point of view, how important is it for them to be building up an email database with their clients? How important is it for them to be taking people that follow them on Instagram and turning them into email subscribers?
It is one of the fastest ways to grow your business in a profitable and scalable sense. The value of an email address versus the value of a follower is quite different. And sometimes there's been higher value in the Instagram following, but it's swung back. And the reason that I think the higher value of the email address is because of the geographic location and the amount of targeting that you can do to actually bring someone into your business. More and more, as audiences grow, they're not geographically relevant to bums on seats. So
Yeah.
an email address is, if it's a salon in an area within 5 kilometers and you've got their email address, that's more valuable than a follower on Instagram, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
that
totally.
is a changed opinion from 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't, or you haven't mentioned either, that your background is you were a hairdresser, which is how we
Yes.
met many, many, many years ago. We won't
Yes,
go there, but you morphed from being a hairdresser. You went back to college, didn't you? You went to university, or whatever. You did a
I did.
marketing degree or something, right? Okay, so
Yes.
so you have some formal sort of qualification and education around digital marketing, and sort of in relation to what you just talked about as well. I was surprised when we sort of reconnected that you have people that work for you dotted around the world now.
Yes.
Salons don't. Do you know what I mean? Salons, as you've just used the magic number, they're within 3 to 5 kilometers probably of your front door, whether that's 3 to 5 kilometers from where they work or 3 to 5 kilometers from where they live. Your
Mm.
your your clientele is local. Your business, my business, is a much more sort of global audience. Tell us just a little bit about your business from that point of view, because I know that you've got people that you outsource stuff to, that you work with in different ways that are dotted all around the world. So tell us about that and why that is necessary in this day and age for a business like yours, or indeed for mine too.
Well, I started the agency 15 years ago. So 2010, and I had my daughter at the end of 2013. So for 3 years, I was a solo operator, no team, just me and the clients. And then I knew I had to have help when I was going on maternity leave, which was, I mean, when you have a business, there's no maternity leave, but I needed extra support around me. And I mean, from a financial perspective, but also a flexibility and agility perspective, it made sense to go offshore because I knew I was going to be working at nights. So if I could find someone who was going to work in that time zone, that worked really well for me. And the Philippines, in the very early stage, were like the first country to really embrace remote work and do it really, really well.
Mm.
So I found a few of my team on, there was a web platform, I think it was called Upwork. It was called something else before then. And it just seemed to work. It really seemed to work. But my recruitment was quite strategic. So I never asked for someone who was a expert in marketing. I asked for beauty bloggers. I
Mhm.
wanted their understanding of the beauty and hair space more than I wanted their ability technically to, produce content in that way.
Mhm.
So one of the copywriters that I found, she said, I'm a copywriter for Sephora in Europe. And yeah, she was a Serbian copywriter and she was with me for 10 years and it just worked. So
Mm.
Serbia, the Philippines, the US, and the UK have been where all of my team have been from. And
Right.
they bring something different.
Mm.
They have a different perspective, they know different trends, and that melting pot of talent to come into, this digital family that we've built has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
that's
it was kind of weird being first to market with the whole offshore, and like everyone hated it. Clients hated it. They
mm.
couldn't wrap their head around the fact that I had someone working on my team that wasn't sat next to me and they were in a different country. However, I can tell you that all of my team know every single hairdressing icon across the world. They know
Mm.
all of the big brands, but they also know our local market in an in-depth way.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we have got VAs in different countries as well, which make a lot of things, possible. Not just sort of economically, but as you just alluded to, different time zones and different areas of expertise. So it's interesting how much you've, sort of gone into that area with your business as well. And I dare say that again, the economic thing is a real issue. I mean, particularly in Australia, employing people is a very expensive thing to do. Whereas in other countries, it's not that you're taking advantage of the fact that that they don't get paid as much. Their cost of living also isn't as much. So it can, work for everybody. Okay, let's get back to Instagram. And I know we sort of opened with that. And I want to ask you if you're trying to give people a focus, like here's three things that you should do.
Mhm.
What would you be saying to a salon owner that they should focus on in 2026 with Instagram? And you've already mentioned AI, so I know that AI is going to be one of those things to not be afraid of. But are there any three, just really practical little things that you should say you should be doing? This, and this. What would they be?
Yes. First of all, I think we need to tell a narrative and we need to take people on a more personal journey if we want engagement and following and growth. So, whether you like it or not, and I'll be honest, I don't like it. I don't want to show too much of myself personally on camera because I'm just a bit awkward like that. um, but every time I get on and actually show my face and speak to camera, my engagement rises. I get lots of comments and business flows in. And then I think, oh, I should do more of that. And
Mm,
I don't. Because
yeah,
I've got to break through that awkwardness again till the
yeah,
next time I've like hyped myself up for it.
yeah.
So I think telling a narrative about your business culture,
Mm,
and giving people an understanding of what they are going to get as a client experience is going to be your new client recruitment tool,
mm,
because Instagram is where they're going to go to. It's the portfolio that you have online, and you need to make someone feel comfortable before they've even stepped through the door. And I think Instagram is such a great way to do that, but the storytelling is important. So
yeah,
it's not just jumping on and, throwing up something that's trending. That's still really great, but I think that the strategy and the return on your output is taking them on the journey from, if you were to come into our business for the very first time, this is what it would be like, and give them a walkthrough. But do that a couple of times a year because it's going to change a couple of times a year. Winter's going to be different to summer, and just make people feel really comfortable. So that's my tip on reels and I guess, the content output.
Mm.
The second one is invest time in the back end. And what I mean by that is actually spend time following, commenting, and having conversations with people so that your brand can be seen. It's one of those tasks that feels like it's kind of thankless because you don't see the growth happen straight away. However, if you give it at least a month, then it happens. There's a
Mm.
delay of 4 weeks of you, just adding comments, but do it clever. Don't throw out a looks good, babe, something like that. Actually have something to say that is a conversation starter. Ask
Yeah,
a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
And if you can spend 20 minutes a day doing that for one full month, my God, you just take a screenshot of your data at the beginning and then take a screenshot of your data at the end of the month.
Mm.
There's nothing like it. No ad can give you the growth or the human connection and the power of the audience engaging with you in that way.
Okay.
Advertising can't do it. And then thirdly, yes, AI.
Yeah. Okay.
AI for content, AI for the times when you don't know what to do or where to turn when it comes to your marketing and your social output. It's an AI question. Get them
Mm.
to help you. And what's fantastic about it is you could use whatever AI tool you like, but I use Gemini and my whole system and business is run off Gemini. So it already knows what my Instagram is doing. And I can say to Gemini, my Instagram handle is at 6underground media. In 2026, I want to launch new content and new campaign that gives salon owners ideas based on profitability, creativity, you know, staff engagement, education. I want it to be so different to everything I've ever done before. And I want you to use what you know about the 2026 market to come up with some ideas. So that is how I would use AI in Instagram. It's not, creating the images, but it's getting it to pull its data that has value and then giving it a specific way to read the data as per the industry.
Great. Yeah, no, they're three really good points. Um, I want to go back to the beginning of that question where you said, that you should be more on camera and that you don't do it enough and that you should and you feel uncomfortable and blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. I think it's so great that you say that because you teach this stuff to people. This is your business. And I think you're really good on camera and you're very natural and, you've got lots to say. And, a lot of salon owners listen to this would be thinking, well, it's all right for you. Do you know what I mean? Like it's much harder for me for whatever reason. So it's great to hear you say that. And, it's one of the observations that I've made in life is that generationally you have people that it's not just generationally. It's definitely with an older age group, like my age group. Okay, I'll just fess up and say, like my age group are more like this, right? But still with younger people as well. And it's that if you look at a young person today, a Gen Z, Gen Z, Alpha, obviously, even millennials to whatever degree, is they're very comfortable with a camera stuck in their face because they've never known a world that wasn't like that. Whereas a lot of people of my generation, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have the internet, and so they're a lot more uncomfortable when you put a camera on them. And
Mm,
it's important just to be who you are, just to be natural. And I tell you who always think is a great example of it. Every time I see him, there's two people. One of them everyone will know. The other one, depending on the country, and you'll know. And they're both chefs. One of them is Gordon Ramsay, and one of them is Jamie Oliver. And both of them, I think their secret sauce, although they're my generation, their secret sauce is that they love the camera and the camera loves them, and what you see is what you get. Like they just this is who I am, and there's
yeah.
no difference on screen and off screen. And I think that is a really difficult thing to do for a lot of people. For me, I know when you stick a camera in front of my face and I'm doing reels, etc. I get lots of nice comments about them, but I know I turn into this other person. Like as soon as I've got this camera in front of me, it's like Anthony, the professional guy, talking about salon business. And it's important to try and break that and just to be who you are, to be natural. And I think you do that, and you do that really well. So, yeah, you shouldn't feel bad about getting on camera more. So anyway, I've gone totally off piste there. Have you got anything to say about that? Any little clues or tips that you would give to people about this is what you need to do to be the real you, the genuine you, and not to try and be someone else?
Okay, there's so much I can say. I think I cheat a little
Hmm.
in I use an app called Big View. I don't know if you know it or have used it, but it
I
is a
don't actually.
teleprompter app
Okay, yeah.
because I think one of the things that we okay when you've got to film something and you do a million takes and you've become exasperated by the fifth one that
Mm.
you keep getting it wrong. So if I've got a script that I can read, I can pace it, and it means that I'm not looking off camera, I'm looking at camera. That really helps. And
Yeah.
coming back to what I always talk about, like who writes the script? AI, because AI knows my language. I've taught it the words that I like it to use and where I like it to use them. It has to sound casual and not too formal, but it has to have structure and it needs to be succinct because I'll
Mm.
ramble forever. So I think having that helped me get comfortable. However, I think that doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that there's lots of people out there that look really, really good on camera and they're gorgeous. And I, I'm incredibly envious in the nicest possible way of all of them. But I've never had that kind of
Mm.
confidence. Like I cringe having to see myself, even as we record this, I can see a bit of my reflection coming back at me and I'm like, oh, awkward. So for any salon owner out there that relates to that, you're not the only one. Like all of us are awkward in that
Mm.
space. It's just a matter of, like anything, doing it a lot and getting over it. That doesn't mean I should do it a hell of a lot more than I do.
Mm.
Um, but I'm getting there and I will hold your hand through it if you're a client of mine because I actually know what it's like. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. It's like anything. The more you do it, the better you get. So yeah. Okay. All right. So before we start
Exactly.
to wrap up, I want to talk about one of your other favorite topics, which is Canva. Um, I mentioned that you're in our marketing course doing some of the lessons in there. And it's A, about social media, Instagram in particular, and B, it's about Canva. Now, I think that most people would probably have heard of Canva. I think a lot of people don't use it as salon owners. And I know it's something that you're really passionate about, which is Canva and branding and graphic design and stuff. And not everyone has done what you've done, which is they're a hairdresser, but then they've gone off to college and done a digital marketing course and all that sort of stuff. And you're very good at that. I'm going to say naturally that you seem to be very good at branding and graphic design and pulling all that together. And so, do you just want to tell us what Canva is for those who don't know and how
Mhm.
salon owners could and should be using it? And I suppose this all starts to mesh a little bit with Instagram and AI as well. So, yeah, give us your take on all that.
I mean, to give you the simplest answer possible, Canva is a dumbed down version of a Photoshop style program. And the reason I say Photoshop, it's just the one that most people know of, but any kind of graphic design program,
Mm-hmm.
because the Adobe ones are incredibly difficult and it's like learning a language. There's
Mm-hmm.
that much to learn. So it's a simplified version of a graphic design tool, but rather than you having to build everything yourself from scratch, it works off the basis of templates. And the templates can be edited and changed on a very simple level, as in you can change just the fonts, the size, and the colors, or you can change quite a bit and drag and drop in your own images. You can add shadows. You can, add extra dimension to things. You can curve the text if you want. There's a lot of things that you know have never ever been available to us in a design program without that incredibly professional design package, which is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of software and, you know, a 3-year degree to learn how to use the software. So as a marketing tool, it has so much value because, again, these tools are going to do me out of a job eventually. You're not going to need a graphic designer if you know your brand and you have brand rules and you can use Canva. You do not need a graphic designer.
And so give some practical examples of what you get salon owners to do using Canva, whereas in the past they might have got someone else to do it, either a copywriter or graphic designer or whatever.
Yes. So, I mean, one that I do quite a bit, which is very surprising, it's not the Instagram tiles, it's we need a new price list. And because that's that one thing that you need to have like in print, but you need to have it digitally as well. So Canva will have a list of, well, a selection of different price lists that you can choose from in their templates. I mean, there is literally hundreds and hundreds of them. And it's just a matter of you populating the template of your choice, adding the colors of your choice, the font of your choice, the prices of your choice, and the descriptions, making sure that you've got a logo that fits in and that it is succinct with all of your other branding. And because it's so easy to update frequently, if a salon owner is like, you know what, we're going to add something new to the price list, we're going to add keratin services as of next week. That's a very, very simple edit that is less than a minute's time. And it's just a matter of posting it on Instagram, uploading it to the website, adding it to your newsletter, or printing out some new hard copies. That would have otherwise been, in Australia, what I would say a $500-600 venture with a graphic designer to make that edit.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so that has certainly changed everything. Well, listen, we do need to start wrapping up. I know I've mentioned it already a couple of times that you're presenting in our marketing course, which for those people that are listening, we will be relaunching that in January. So you can definitely connect with Hayley there. But before then, whereabouts can people connect with you on Instagram, website, or any other social media channels? Where would you like to send them to?
I think Instagram. I have all of the social platforms, but Instagram's my favorite. So our agency is 6 Underground Media. So the handle very simply is at 6 Underground Media.
Is that the letter? Is that the digit or the word?
It's 6? Not the digit, it's the word 6.
Got it. Okay. All right. 6 Underground Media. Yeah, sorry, carry
6
on.
Underground Media. So you can find us there and drop in, say hi. I would love to follow you back. I love to, every time we get new followers, I want to see what they're doing too. It's such a great, I learn so much from people following me because I go and have a look at them, and it's pretty wonderful what you can learn just by observing.
Okay. All right, cool. So 6 Underground Media on Instagram. That's Instagram. The main social platform. Any website? Yes.
Our website is 6underground.net.au.
Right. Okay. I will make sure that I put those links in the show notes for today's podcast, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcast, or indeed on our website in the show notes. I'll have your social media links, etc. So, look, if you're listening to this podcast with Hayley Mears and you've enjoyed it, then do me a favor and share it with people that you know would also enjoy it. We will have Hayley back in 2026, at least a couple of times on the podcast to give short updates on what's happening in the world of social, because it is constantly changing, as she said at the top of this episode. And in order to keep on top of it, you've got to stay informed. So Hayley will be the person to do that. So to wrap up, Hayley, thank you for being on today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast.
Thank you, Anthony and Melinda, for your amazing patience. It's such a pleasure to collaborate with you.
Great. I look forward to the next one.